remember being asked one time, what was life like before you were HIV? And we were doing a talk at the University of Hawaii, and I just couldn't even answer it. Okay. Are you ready? Okay. A little faster? Okay. You better hold on now. Down. Go ahead, baby. Hold on. Got it?
Yeah.
Okay, keep doing it. Try to do it by yourself. First of all, I thought that I wasn't going to be positive. Of course, that was in my mind. I thought, no way I could be positive. I didn't have any symptoms, and I thought, no, I probably wouldn't be. Really, at the time I got tested, I was in total shock. You just kind of blank it out. You don't think that it's going to happen. There are a lot of very lonely times. In the organization that I work for, the majority of the clients are gay, white males. So most of my friends are gay. And being the only woman speaking in the beginning, I've tried real hard to meet other women who are HIV, so they know that they're not alone. Hello, good afternoon. My name is Robin. I heard that you folks are planning to eventually become volunteers working with Japanese with HIV and AIDS. I started speaking on a speakers bureau maybe now about 18 months ago. I thought that I could help by coming out and speaking it. At the time I started, I was the only woman doing it. In April of 1990, I was diagnosed as HIV positive, and my husband was diagnosed with full-blown AIDS. And also I was 5.5 months pregnant with my daughter. Maybe the first couple times I was very nervous, but I've had nothing but good support from the people out there that I spoke with. Every time that I go out and speak, it's healing for me. After losing my husband, it was very, very hard. I went through about 3 weeks of really, really a deep depression. My husband was the ultimate. He understood me better than anybody else did. He knew my mood. You know, we were real soulmates. So it's lonely. It's important to me that if I do ever have another sexual relationship, that person knows. And I guess I'm really not ready for the rejection.
Big Mama 101, Big Mama.
I don't want to move it around your vein.
Why? What will happen?
It just will hurt.
Well, when my husband was in the hospital, the last 3 months that he was in the hospital, I started getting bruises on my legs, and I thought, oh my God, I got to go get another T-cell count done. Something's wrong. And what happened was my case manager had told me, you know, Robin, you need to start taking care of yourself. And what they have found out is that women are going a lot faster because they don't realize the symptoms. You know, I've been asked before whether I've ever considered suicide. The only time that's ever come into my mind was the fact that if my daughter was positive. I felt very guilty. I felt like it was our fault. If she was positive, I don't know. I don't know really what would have happened. I'm just grateful she's not. Yeah, come here.
My mommy.
Here, mommy.
My daddy. Daddy 11.
I don't know what I would do when I get ill. It's very, very spooky because I've ended up in the hospital twice. The things that go through your head are, oh my God, is it going to start happening to me? Am I starting to get these symptoms?
The birds. What's that say? Go ahead.
The bird.
Press it.
What is it?
Press it.
I know that I want to leave my daughter with my parents.
And she laughed.
The thing that's hardest is when I do get sick, it can be very depressing because I think to myself, can I take care of my daughter? You know, is it coming to the point where I can't take care of her anymore? And I think that's hardest for me. My daughter's very supportive. She's seen me sick. She's always tapping me on the back and saying, Mommy, it's all right. You'll be okay. You want to take your medicine. But that's probably the scariest thing, or my biggest fear.
Horace, not knowing what he was planning to do, Snow White played with the birds.
I don't know how long I have to live. I haven't asked yet. I don't feel like I'm that bad off yet where it's been a concern of mine. I just live it right now, day by day. Every time that I go out and speak, it's healing for me.
I think AIDS is a self-induced sickness.
Among the immigrants, we think you get AIDS from the air and the water.
There's a huge denial about HIV and AIDS.
Our community is very, very conservative.
Because once you admit that there's HIV in the community, you're basically admitting that there's homosexuality, drug use, premarital sex.
My parents don't like to talk about sex.
When I talk about dating, my mom just changes the subject.
They're saying that Asia is the next Africa in terms of HIV.
My friend died from AIDS, but her family says it was breast cancer.
Why do we have to talk about it?
I don't know why we don't want to talk about this illness.
We are immigrants, Pacific Islanders and American born. Men, women, young and old. A complex community with vast differences in languages, histories, and beliefs. But we share a common understanding that silence is our culture. We uphold our traditions and family values, even when our loved ones are stricken. Silence is our culture.
where you were standing. Dinosaurs did a dance. The Indians told the story. Now it has come to pass. The Indians had a legend. The Spaniards lived for gold. Men came and killed them, but they haven't really gone. We live in the city of dreams.
See, you're feeling better?
Feeling much better and more energy since I got on the new drug, named D4T, and I've been on it for 3 months now.
Really?
And it helps with my T cells. Have been tripled since from below 80 up to 220. So it's very encouraging sign. And I had double pneumonia. I had a Klebsiella bacterial pneumonia and a PCP at the same time. And I was in the hospital for about 10 days. Hello? Yes? He didn't call me back, but I had a chance to see him today. Yeah, I was on it 20-some years ago. So they start me on INH right away. And
I've learned so much of what I've learned at such painful prices.
I mentioned the
Loss,
number to him.
disease.
He said, well, it's really okay.
I don't feel like it has to be that
More
way.
than 200. And I told him, I said, I'm on a restricted diet.
Your head upon my pillow. All your warm and tender body close to mine.
I met my wife at the Guam department store. That was perhaps the year 52, 53, right after I came out of basic training. And there we were dating in and out, you know, just guess our love was kind of loose. But after a while,
I won't call it that.
huh?
We went off and on.
Yeah, it's kind of, our love again is
Don't say lose again.
a kiss and run, or run and kiss.
We got married in 1959 with a beautiful wedding. Our first child was born in 1961, Vincent Anthony. And then 17 months later, we have a beautiful baby daughter, Francine.
Vince and I had a very, very close relationship growing up. In fact, he was always my hero, my big brother, and he spoiled me from the time I was born, I think, until I can remember.
I always felt like an outsider. Being that my dad was in the military, we never really stayed any place long enough for me to actually feel like I belonged anywhere. I was always ready to move, like nothing was permanent.
He gave us very little trouble, and he's very studious, and he was very active with the church and school.
Their mom trained them up pretty good.
He was not a perfect kid, but he was almost perfect kid, except when he grew up.
Don't look so sad. I know it's over, but life goes on.
I don't know, I miss the closeness that we had as a family growing up. I left home because I felt I had to. I knew that my lifestyle wouldn't be accepted, and so I left.
Well, when Vince told me that he was gay, I would just, sort of, just feel neutral. But I did tell Vince that if a person isn't gay, all he can say is not yet. It could happen to anybody. and that's it. They just, the temptation comes around. The temptation comes around if you can avoid it. Then
it goes back to our upbringing. You know, our upbringing is so rigid and
like
so.
I said, if you're not gay, I'll say that and I'll say it again. That all you can say is just not yet. Like, I guess we're all gays.
We were
to some
brought up
extent.
so strict, and everything is black and white. Anything that's not black and white, it's not normal. So I always pictured him to be like a baseball player, or it's against our religion, and it's, I don't know. I just couldn't accept it for the longest time. I wouldn't even speak to him, and I was just heartsick. I got kind of emotional, and I just cried, and I asked him, can he change and go back to whatever I'm supposed to believe he was? I mean, you know, it's his life, and he's a grown man, but it's still hard. I have to admit, it's hard for me to accept. I don't want to think about it because it really upset me.
Well, I left home in 1980. Since then, I've had about 28 different addresses. I kicked around for a long time. I left California, I went to Hawaii. You know, I really didn't have a whole lot of awareness about politics or like what was correct and what we were supposed to be doing. I just kind of like lived my life with my friends. 4 years ago tomorrow, I tested HIV positive. I was living in New York. I've heard about AIDS, but I didn't really know anything because I didn't know anybody who was HIV positive. I didn't know anybody who had AIDS. And I also heard that Asians didn't get it. Well, one day I had a throat infection, and I went to a doctor. She didn't explain to me anything. I just tested. 2 weeks later, I got a notice in the mail, and it said, please come to the clinic. We need to talk to you about your test. It was a horrible time. I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about treatment. I didn't know anything about what it meant. I thought I was gonna die. And I was very scared. And on top of that, none of my friends knew what to do either. I went to the doctor, got my blood checked, and they came back and they said, you know, it looks like a bomb has gone off inside your body. You might want to start getting your affairs in order. I'm just glad that I got through it. And that's why I wanted to talk about this, because they told me I could expect to live for 2 years. It's been 4. And I'm still doing fine. I met Jesse in a singing class, and I thought this person is going to have an important influence in my life. Our first date, Longtime Companion had just opened, and I thought, well, we'll go see this. You know, it was like, that was like the movie of the moment, and he didn't seem all that enthused, which I didn't pick up on right away, but we got to the theater, and when it was sold out, he seemed almost relieved. I thought, well, that's really strange. And I told him, I was like, you know, if you didn't want to see it, you could have just said something, but he didn't say anything. And so the night went on, and it went really great. We had dinner. I just found myself really taken by him. And then I thought, you know, I have to tell him I'm HIV positive. So we're walking, I said, Jess, there's something I have to tell you. And he's like, what? I said, well, you know, before I tell you, I just want you to know, I'll understand if you want to go or whatever. And I kind of set it up, totally expecting to be rejected. And then I said, well, I have to tell you that I'm HIV positive. And he looked at me and said, is that it? And I said, yes. He goes, that's nothing. He goes, I have AIDS. I looked at him and I said, you do? And he said, what do you think these spots are on my face? And I was thinking, well, you have a bad complexion. I don't know. I really didn't know, but that's what it was. And he said, well, your condition doesn't bother me if my condition doesn't bother you. And I really knew I loved him because it's like I didn't let any of my excess baggage get in the way. None of the baggage about my family, none of the baggage about being gay. At one point, I just let it all go because he was what was important to me. I fear dying before my parents. I guess I wonder who's going to take care of them. I fear harm happening to my sister. I just always assumed that I'd be there for them. And now I'm not so sure sometimes.
He told me when he moved back here from New York a couple years ago, I guess it was 1990, that he was HIV positive. And my initial reaction to that was, of course, you know, are you going to be okay? Are you going to die? And what do? I was very sad, and it's been difficult for me as well, because having to deal with this by myself without my parents knowing, because since they just recently found out, has been also very trying for me.
I fear for his developing AIDS, but what can you do? I mean, you just have to play it by ear.
Honestly, my father, see, I don't know if he knows that there's a possibility that I could develop AIDS. I'm not sure if he understands that. My sister and I we'll try in the months to come to talk to him a little bit more about it.
When I first found out about Vince, I guess I have to say I was a little afraid myself. I mean, not knowing what the disease was about, and actually I was almost afraid to be near my brother, and I certainly didn't want that. I thought the only thing I can do is find out about it on my own.
She's the cleaner. She doesn't cook, so she's only thing she knows is to clean. Sometimes she doesn't even do that.
My fears about contact with my brother or anything like that there's still a few things, like maybe drinking out of the same glass. I used to have a very big fear about that, but I've kind of overcome that now.
Now you guys know what I have to live through.
You drink it out of that bowl every day?
Yes. Well, I just bought this the other day.
I used to kind of become nervous when my brother would sneeze or something like that around me. Recently we took a trip to Guam over the summer, and Vince was always very tired. So, you know, we're cautious about Vince, and when he's tired or when he's not feeling well, it makes me very nervous.
I think when I went back to Guam and I spoke for the first time, that was the first time in my life that I got a sense of who I was.
This is World AIDS Day today, 1st of December, so that'll be the focus of our in-studio interview coming up here in the next few minutes. And in the meantime, you will carry forward with all these other things that we've got going on. The abortion decision, GPA. It's a busy day in the news business today. Tell me just a little bit about what Guam is going to do today. What's happening tonight?
Well, like you said earlier, Mr. Anderson, Guam is where America's Day begins, and this is where we feel that this is where World AIDS Day begins.
Our featured guest speaker would be, of course, Vince, who will speak on the personal experiences along with dealing with HIV in the community.
I'm here to promote education and raise awareness on HIV and AIDS, and to support this community's efforts. There aren't a whole lot of faces, Asian and Pacific Islander faces, that you can attach to this epidemic. There's very few people that are willing to speak out. I'm hoping that families will open up dialogue and talk about issues, sexuality, family issues.
A lot of people say, that's not my concern. And a lot of that stems from our ignorance and fear here on the island. A lot of the politicians here are slowly becoming aware. But I'll tell you, a year ago, no one would ever stand up and support any of our campaigns.
I think we need to learn to cope with the fact that we are mortals, that we're susceptible to illness, that the worst thing we can do is criticize people who are ill. The best thing we can do, or the least we can do, is to try to comfort them or offer them, reach out to them in compassionate love and care. All right? Okay. Very good.
I think people are going to see that AIDS and HIV was the biggest teacher of our time, because I think it's forcing people to change. It's forcing people to take stock of what they believe is important. People have had to change their lives. People have had to change the way they have sex, the way they relate to each other. You know, it's not finished yet. I think we don't know what it's all going to mean in the end. When I first met Jeffrey,
That's when I first got out of the hospital. I was still on oxygen therapy.
well, I was just so shocked because I said, he's so sick and he has to carry these things. I mean, this is like,
About 15 pounds.
yeah, and it's like, it's awkward and he's carrying it up the stairs and I'm like, even a well person is going to have problems with that.
Well, they have something smaller, but it doesn't last as long. The time when you need it, you need it. You just need to find a more creative way, try to carry it or just drag it everywhere I go. But I had a problem getting on the bus with this thing because it's inflammable. And I've been told that you can't carry that thing up here. I said, well, but I'm on oxygen therapy. I need to have this. So they said, well, you probably need to get on the taxi cab with this, you know. In 1975, when I come out to them and tell them I have a different lifestyle, that I'm gay, the whole family turned against me. I sort of expect them would accept my sexuality, and they didn't. So therefore, they shut me out of the family for 17 years. I feel very sad that I lost all those time.
Being Asian or Pacific Islander, we're always told what we should be. I don't think anybody really takes into consideration who we are.
So we said to hell with shopping, we'll wait for white flour. For now we'll show you our might and power.
Well, this is how I spend my nights, directing Love Like This Theater for Asian AIDS Project. We audition people from the community and we put these plays together and we educate people about what it's like living with HIV in the Asian and Pacific Islander community.
This person told me the other day, I can't get AIDS because I'm Asian and we're cleaner than everyone else.
Sometimes I just want to summon the power of the goddess, Elizabeth Taylor, fly all over the earth and slap each and every person in denial.
It's First Theater group that's been used to outreach to Asians and Pacific Islanders for AIDS education. I can't even talk.
Why is it first?
Because nobody else has done it, and now they're copying us.
Hello, reality check. Am I immune to AIDS because I eat rice 3 times a day? Not.
Can you give me an attitude?
Hello, reality check. Am I immune to AIDS because I eat rice 3 times a day? Not.
When you died, I wanted to kill myself. I thought maybe I could have died first and you could take care of me while I was dying. You were always the one who took care of so much in our lives. You took care of me when I infected you.
I infected you and then I died on you. Don't you hate me?
No. I don't hate you, I love you. I always will. How could you know that it was you that infected me? Look, I wasn't exactly the Vestal version of vanilla, you know. I was hustling on the streets. It could have been anyone.
Why I'm active in AIDS? Well, I think first and foremost because I'm HIV positive and I'm gay. And it seems like for the past few years of my life, AIDS and HIV has been a big part of it. It's gotten to be an ordinary thing of visiting hospitals, going to memorial services, counseling people and being supportive of people trying to live while they're dying. And I think over the past few years, I've gotten really angry, and I want to make an impact.
Ho, ho! Homophobia's gotta go, hey, hey! Ho, ho! Homophobia's gotta go, hey!
I've known Vince since I first came out in 1980, 81, back in Hawaii. And it was funny. It's funny because we're very, very close now, but before, I think we really didn't like each other.
You think?
My take on it is because we hung out with two very different crowds. He hung out with the crowd who did coke. I hung out with the crowd that did Quaaludes. And so...
So what's it been like to be, HIV positive?
What's it been like? It's been a lot of things. It's changed my life. It's changed how I do my life. It's made me very angry because it's very unfair. There's so much misconception, there's so much discrimination, there's so much isolation, there's so much death, there's so much fear, there's so much pain. And it makes me angry to have to struggle to live and to love, even though I know that a lot of us do a tremendous job at it. We've been at this epidemic for 10 years and we're still like at the very beginning of it.
13. Before Jesse, I was dating a man I met in a bar here. So anyway, we fast forward about 4 years. One day in February, I got a phone call and they asked me to please come to the hospital because he was sick. So I asked where he was, and he was in the same hospital room that Jesse was in when he died, and that really freaked me out. But anyway, I made it there. So I helped out whatever way I could. One day, we just started talking. And I ended up telling him, I said, did you ever think that we were going to be going through this when we were dating 4 years ago? And he told me no. And then I told him, I said, well, you know, most likely you and I infected each other. And he said, yes, I know. And I said, well, because, you know, when I tested, you were the only person that I had to tell. And he said, I know. And I said, well, I just want you to know that if I infected you, I'm sorry. And if you infected me, I forgive you. And it was one of those moments where, I don't know, that whatever animosity there happened to be between us just seemed to melt. Then we continued talking, and I said, well, you know, did you ever And I was laughing. I go, did you ever think you were HIV positive? Because I never did. And he said, yes, I've known since college. And I thought, oh, that was about 3 or 4 years before you met me. And I felt so much anger. Like, I said, oh my God, help me, because I just forgave him for doing something that he did knowingly. I mean, I just felt the anger rush from my feet all the way up into my head, and I looked at him, and he was wearing all these tubes, and he was wrapped up in all this plastic, and I said, God, you have to give me a sign, because I'm going to take the situation, and I'm going to make it worse. And I remembered he'd always wanted to have unsafe sex when we first started dating, and I always said no. But one night I got really drunk, and I just gave in. And then after that, I thought, what does it matter? I already did it once. But I thought about it, and I realized that, I did love him. And I didn't know any better at the time. And also, had I not been through Jesse's death and watched how much pain that caused, and I don't know, it might have had a different outcome, but I also didn't want to spend the rest of my life pointing fingers and saying, you did this to me, and being a victim. I just felt, that I knew he was going to die. I didn't want him to die with me hating him. So that's what happened.
I don't know, you're going through life, and I guess you went by it and you picked something up and it got it. Maybe I got it too, or it could happen to anybody. It's just like being gay. Gay is one thing, and HIV virus another thing, and you got two different way of life, I guess, that you, or some kind of emotion that you pick up on through going through life, and that's the way I look at it. I told Vince not to worry about it because there's no sense in worrying
hardly spent
about
time with the kids, when they were growing up. So now anything is okay with him because he tries to make it up.
Sometimes I just want to run screaming out of the room and just out of this world and out of this life, because it's hard.
Remember this